Hey, everybody. Today we've got Stephen Franke on the show. He is the owner and president of C1 Insurance Group. Stephen's been a friend of mine for a long time. I've done contracting work for him and referred clients to him because he's a wealth of information with regard to homeowners insurance, as well as business property insurance and vehicle insurance. Hope you enjoy the show. Stephen's got so much to say. He's a very energetic guy, and also is going to offer a lot of insight on team building, how to build a company, how to sell, how to overcome adversity. Hope you enjoy the show. Yeah, man. Right on. We're live. Stephen Franke, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're an insurance professional.
I am.
And we're on here to talk about all of that, but also just to talk about how you got started doing what you're doing, what it took to get there, and where you're at now, but where you want to end up. So, where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Austin, a little suburb of Austin named Westlake.
Yeah.
And
you may know it.
Drew Brees, Nick Foles. We got some pedigree down there.
Baker too?
Nah,
Westlake?
Lake Travis.
Oh, Lake Travis.
Let's not.
Sorry, bro.
Blend those together.
My fault, brother.
Yeah. So I grew up there. Went to A&M. Made my way up to college. Made my way up to Dallas, and here we are today. So
what did you study at A&M?
I was kind of a journeyman.
Yeah.
A little bit. I think I changed my degree 6 times. Wowzers. And stayed a full 5 years, enjoyed my time there.
Yeah.
But ended up with agricultural economics.
Okay.
Which is like the common folk economics.
There you go. Did you dunk your ring at the...
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you can't not do that.
What kind of question is that?
Yeah. So, played rugby down there.
What's that all about? I've heard a lot about that.
So actually one of my good buddies from Westlake, Kevin Becker, got me into it. We were roommates at A&M.
Awesome.
And never looked back. Played for
Best
about 10 years.
sport in the world, man.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not a real man if you haven't at least tried rugby.
Yeah, at least a semester.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's how you and I met, was through rugby, and then we played together for the Quins for a year or two.
Yep.
Until, of course, injuries took us both out, but such is life.
That's it.
So agricultural economics, what took you from studying that to deciding to start what you started, and how did you get started?
Yeah, so graduated in 2009, and so there's really, at that time, we all know the seasons of economic life at that point. It was either, contrary to today, Austin had no job opportunities. It was all city, municipality stuff, working for the government, which I, really didn't have a desire to do. I knew I wanted to be in sales. So really the two areas that I could move to would either be Houston or Dallas. That was just kind of the options that were on the plate. My then girlfriend, her name is Diana. She's from Carrollton. She made her way back up to Dallas. We met at A&M. I chased her up here. That was the reason. That was the driving force to move to Dallas.
There you go. True love, bro.
True love.
Keep telling yourself.
Yeah, that's right. And 2 houses and almost 4 kids later, here we are.
Unbelievable.
And,
congrats on that, man. That's awesome.
But anybody that's in insurance never says, I woke up one day and said, I want to sell insurance. I want to be an insurance professional. It kind of just happens.
Yeah.
There's no kind of pedigree associated with it. But I looked into it in the economic time that we were in, and I said, I want to be in something that's stable, that creates opportunity.
Yeah.
And insurance is one of those things. It's a very archaic but very stable business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business in the United States, and I knew I wanted to be on the sales side, but I also wanted to work with people. And so there's lots of different segments of the insurance world. I wanted to work in personal lines, property, and casualty. That's just where I landed. How I got there, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so I graduated, got a job, which was great in 2009.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, Yeah.
And
I worked for a firm in Colleyville. They hired me on, trained me up, taught me how to spell insurance and taught me how to spell it to people.
Right.
And pretty soon after that, I realized that I really loved the business.
Nice.
Really enjoyed the business and really enjoyed just kind of the industry as a whole. Got the dumb idea about 2 years later to say, could I do this on my own? I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of toyed with it, bounced it around. Had a colleague there. We both kind of were in our seasons of life of I'm about to get married, and he was looking for like the next thing in his life. And good dude, we're kind of polar opposites. He's very, very visionary. I'm very, very executional. And
you are a thorough dude.
yeah, very thorough, very methodical. You give me a target and I'm going to figure out how to get there. He's going to say, there's the target. And so it's like perfect blend, yin and yang. And so we started toying with the idea of doing our own thing. Can we do it? How do we do it? When do we do it? And we had no misconception that it would be a difficult thing to do, but we knew that we could sell insurance. So we're very, very naive in the fact that because we can sell insurance, we can start a business. It should work, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
It'll work.
Yeah.
And why not? And the good thing is that we're young. We didn't have a whole lot of life liabilities or anything like that. I wasn't married, didn't have any kids, didn't have a mortgage, had rent. I mean, I had to pay some student loans, things like that, but not a whole lot of strings.
Gotcha.
And so we started toying with the idea: are we going to do it out of our apartments? How are we going to do it? He got connected to a guy that's been in the commercial insurance space for years. And he said, you know what, guys, y'all don't need to do this on your own. Let's do it together. And so
Kind of like a mentor.
mentor and investor.
Gotcha.
And so he created the stability for us from a financial component. And that was it. It was a purely financial play for him. And it still is. He's still my business partner today.
Yeah.
Fantastic. He's also an Aggie. Fantastic dude.
Nice.
And he said, go run and run fast. Good luck. Here's some money.
Yeah.
And gave some guidance, has given some guidance, has been a huge mentor to us, sits on our board, so to speak. And that was October 3rd of 2011.
Gotcha.
2 weeks later, I got married to Diana.
There you go.
So October of 2011 was a big year for a big month.
Picking
for
up
us.
steam, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
That's kind of how the quick 30,000 foot level of how we got to where we got to at that point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you are starting an agency.
Mm-hmm.
You're fearless. You know you're backing yourself. You know we can sell.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a no-brainer. Which, by the way, is not something that every individual possesses. Either the ability to sell or the ability to believe in themselves that they can, no matter what.
Yeah.
But you also found something that you believed in to sell. Because if you're trying to sell something you don't believe in, it's easy to tell when someone's trying to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just you, the money investor partner, and your vision guy partner.
Yep.
And you and vision guy partner, it's just you guys selling what? Cold calling, hunting people down, going for referrals, that type of thing.
All
to
the
get
above.
started.
Yeah, I mean, all the above. I mean, the idea of being able to sell an insurance policy, you have to have a carrier to sell it. So we were like, of course, insurance carriers will let us sell for them. Like, why wouldn't they?
Right.
But as you know, on your side, like, insurance carriers are very, very methodical. Mm-hmm. They're very, very intentional with what they do in their business because they want to make sure that they're writing good business.
Right.
They're writing profitable business.
Yes.
And they've got people on the ground that are doing it well, and they're pre-underwriting and doing all the things that needs to be done, because once I sell the policy, it's their check, not mine.
Right.
That's paying you.
Yeah.
And so insurance carriers were telling us no. Like, you can't write for us. We don't trust you. We don't believe in you.
Why? Just because you don't have experience?
We're young. Like, you guys are sales guys. Like, you guys aren't businessmen. Like,
Interesting.
And so we had two carriers that just gave us a shot. They just said, hey, we'll give you a shot. And it was Progressive and Safeco.
Gotcha.
And so effectively, we're a Progressive and Safeco agency for 18 months.
Yeah.
And so once we got that, notch in our belt, then we said, okay, game on. Let's go sell.
Sure.
And so we had to block and tackle, cold call, asking for referrals, asking our spheres of influences, everything like that, to present the opportunity to do what we do well at the time.
Yeah.
And so that meant I would drive to Austin for a 5-minute meeting.
Yeah.
That meant I would drive, over 3,000 miles in a month. And I would be gone for 10 days straight.
Wow.
And I would be staying in motels, not hotels. And doors on the outside, not on the inside.
Bootstrapping, man. Yeah,
and
I hear you.
just bootstrap the heck out of it. And just get out there and spread the word.
Right.
And try to get the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's an entrepreneur, no matter what the field is, understands and is a born salesman.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're not, even if you are an idea guy, you better be able to still close.
That's right.
Because anybody can get a few drinks in them and have a bunch of great ideas, right?
Absolutely.
When somebody tells me I'm an idea guy, I'm like, cool, not sure I got a place for you, bro.
Yeah.
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 That whole hustle side of starting your own business is just so important.
Mm-hmm.
The get up every day after having been rejected for several straight days in a row, and just putting that out of your mind and just getting right back at it, right?
Just being pragmatic about it.
Yeah. And hey, that one didn't work out, but we're going to get the next one.
Yep.
I mean, how close did you ever get to being like, man, I don't know if this is going to work?
I think about that a lot. It's a good question. I never had in my mind that I was going to fail.
Yeah.
And I never had in my mind that I would let it happen.
No backup plan. Like,
no
I'm
backup
going.
Plan. No backup
come
plan.
hell or high water.
I jumped out of the plane without a chute.
Badass.
And,
that's awesome.
It's just like fear is not an option. Failure is not an option.
Right.
But you're running scared every day.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
hey, fear's a hell of a motivator.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Whether it's in business or sports, somebody's always at the gym earlier. Yeah. Somebody's always up earlier, making cold calls earlier. Mm-hmm. I got to get my ass in gear, or I'm gonna get turned under.
Get lost. Yeah, lost in the wash.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're out, you're cold calling, you're all over just the state of Texas, or are you all over the show?
Just the state of Texas.
Okay,
I mean,
gotcha.
my spheres, so I knew nobody in Dallas outside of like my core group of friends.
Right.
In reality, I knew nobody in business. So actually, all my sphere, business-wise, was down in Austin.
Yeah.
So I was down in Austin a whole bunch. 2011, 2012, 2013. Just pursuing business, chewing off business, trying to bite it.
Yeah.
And then with that, those people in those industries, whether it be in real estate or mortgage lending or financial advising, they also knew people in Dallas.
Yeah.
I said, I would love connections in Dallas, please.
Right.
This three-hour drive to Austin is great, but I'd prefer to drive 30 minutes to McKinney.
No doubt.
And so by way of that, I started to get more connections up here in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Right.
Which, productively enough, started to centralize that effort.
Sure.
That was going into 2014.
Yeah. Is there a deal that you can recall closing, or a group of deals that really started to build that momentum for you, where you were like, okay, all right, here we go. It's on.
Yeah. I mean, so I think about, one of the core focuses that I have in my business is opportunity creation. I want to find opportunities to create opportunities for other people. And because so many opportunities have been created for me, here's the example of that. So somebody near and dear to my heart, very close to me, it's my mom. She ran a very large real estate company, the 6th largest real estate company in the United States at the time. They were headquartered in College Station. That's where the owner started it. But she lived in Austin, obviously. She literally just was like, hey, come talk to everybody in my organization. Big auditorium, like 500 people.
Nice.
Get up there and just do a little song and dance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy smokes, I'm 25, just started a business, and don't really know what to say. I know that I can sell it if they give me the opportunity. And, you know, I went down there. It was in February of 2012. So just about 5-6 months after we started the agency. And I did it. And a lot of things started rolling after that. So I would say that, you know, your mom's always your best friend.
Sure.
You know, love your mother.
Oh, yes.
Love your mother.
Yeah.
And lots of opportunity presented itself by way of working with those folks and her connections in the real estate space here in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Gotcha.
So I would say that was probably the genesis. That was like that was it.
That's awesome.
You know, those opportunities that were created for me.
That's very cool, especially that it started with her.
Yeah.
Yes. If your mom's not your best friend, you're doing something wrong, folks.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's right.
So you start getting that rolling. You're in sales. We all understand in sales that there's certainly a process. It's always good to get a good system process in place for prospecting and then finally closing. Mm-hmm. What is your follow-up protocol?
So on a prospect?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, there's statistics around with regards to follow-up and closing. So the more you follow up, statistically, the higher rate of close. So in my business, it can be very transactional. You know, everybody thinks about their auto insurance. They go to progressive.com or geico.com, they buy a policy and they move on. But whenever you're trying to change the conversation and get somebody to value an agent like myself and appreciate the expertise associated with it, it takes a little bit of time to get those people off the keyboard and on the phone. And typically, my goal is that I either have 1 to 2 interactions with somebody before I sell them or I move on. Sometimes, if I pursue it enough, if I pursue it at least 3 or 4 times, follow up, call the prospect, try to get them on the phone, get them meeting, whatever. Once I hit that 4th, if I get to the 4th, I've got a 80%. It's a systematic deal for me now. 80% of the time, I'm going to sell that person.
Yeah.
So I've identified that for me personally in my sales. And so I try to transpose that and teach that to all of our people.
Absolutely.
You know, the more follow-up that you get, you either force the no or you get the yes.
Yeah.
So
are there little tricks that you use when you're reaching out to a prospect, like using their name in a conversation, using their name in a text message, or are you just blitzing them on every platform, text, email, phone call, or are you going kind of case by case, kind of feeling out the client, hey, maybe reach out to them on all platforms, then see which one you get a response back, then hit that back with your follow-ups? Or is there, I know that you are a very calculating guy, so I'm sure you've got it broken down somewhat analytically about how you do pursue in your follow-up process. And follow-up, man, that's, if you're not following up and you're in sales, you are dead.
You're lost. Yeah, and so I would say there's a little bit of a blitz, you know, phone, email, text. I see that engaging people on social is pretty powerful.
For sure.
Whether it be on LinkedIn. You know, I tend to steer away whenever it comes to business from Instagram, Facebook, you know, because in the insurance business, it's very relational. People like to know me, like to know Diana, like to know Luke and Harper, like to know all things about me as a human being. Because you know, I'm the second phone call they make whenever their house is on fire.
Yeah.
First one is to the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the second one.
Right.
Or somebody loses their home in a tornado.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a part of their family, and they want to be a part of mine. And so I understand that. And so if I can engage them in the platforms and the methods that they like to be engaged upon, and typically at least at the onslaught, it's phone, email, text. I'll connect with them on LinkedIn if they're like super type A, buttoned up businessman or woman. If they're heavy relational, I'll friend them on Facebook. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not putting anything out there too crazy.
Right.
So, you know.
All good.
Yeah.
We had a financial planner on last week, and very, very, very similar to what you do. And I asked him, and I'll ask you a couple questions that I did ask him, but one thing I asked him, I'll ask you now. to you, what's the difference between a customer and a client? And how do you treat each differently? You used a word a few sentences ago that comes into this, transactional. What's that difference to you between a customer and a client, and how you treat those two?
Yeah, so I mean, a customer and a client, a customer is looking at the commodity of insurance. So what I mean by that is they're just looking at price, they're looking at basic layers of coverage and things like that. They're not really valuing me as a human or that financial planner, the services and the expertise that we present to the equation. They're just saying, hey, I'm here shopping.
Yeah.
And you're going to sell those people. Sure. Like I can sell them, but the value that a client presents is that they truly believe that I have their best interest at heart. They truly appreciate me and what I do, because there's so much wash out there. There's so much noise of insurance being, it's a one size fits all deal. You know, you live in $1 million house or $100,000 house. One house isn't better, but insurance is all the same. And, it's not. And people need to know that. They need to be educated upon that. And those people that value that are clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's that value, right? It's what the individual values that differentiates them from being a customer or a client.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you are selling yourself to a client, your ideal client is a client who values value.
Absolutely.
When you're selling yourself to them, they want to know that you are dependable, that you have integrity, that your word is your bond. Kind of talk about how it is that you prove to a client, you vet yourself to them without just coming right out and going, listen, you can believe every word I say, right? Yeah. Might be the first thing you don't say to someone is, believe what I'm saying. Trust me. Yeah. That's the first time. That's the first way I know, I'm probably not gonna. Yeah. So how do you do that?
I let, in my world, everybody thinks that the insurance industry, it's all about profit. Yeah. They're all crooks. And every carrier is going to treat you like a piece of junk during a claim. And that's a fair thought process. It's like, it happens. It does. And that's the loudest voice in the room that you see on the internet, And so how I validate myself and how I validate what I do is that, my job as an independent insurance agent is to advise on the solutions that are available in the market. So I'm not necessarily on the opposite side of the table with the client. I'm on the same side. I'm like, hey, here's what this means. Here's what that means. Here's what this policy offers versus that one. Let them make an educated decision, as opposed to operating in the mentality that, I'm just going to get sold. I'm going to just get sold this house of cards of a deal, that the piece of paper that's supposed to make me feel good. And so I really bring the conversation around to the same side, and along with that, bring in my expertise and explain very thoroughly. I value education in my business, because the biggest issue, and you probably see it on your end, is that people view insurance as they're just gonna find a way to not pay the claim. Well, the reality is that they probably just don't understand the function of the insurance and how it operates, and when in fact that claim will probably get paid in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not perfectly, or maybe it will. Maybe the carrier will just get a stroke of luck and they'll just be like, you know what, we're going to go above and beyond on this one. That's rare. But I literally put the carriers on the other side of the table, and we're on the same side, and we just talk about it. We just say, hey, here's the spectrum of options. Here's the marketplace. Now, people are like, well, why these carriers? Why do you work with these carriers? And I just say, I look at four things. I look at the Texas Department of Insurance. It's the watchdog on the industry. And they say, these carriers are doing great based off of their what's considered a consumer complaint index. And so if a carrier has a bunch of complaints, they're going to get a bad rap. And so TDI leads that. Financial stability, product offering, and then obviously the rate offering that's being presented. It's like, we're going to work with carriers that are going to take care of all facets of the business, and I'm going to advise you along the way. So I don't necessarily, honestly, I don't sell myself. I just sell the expertise that I present. I sell my heart, my care, and then the access to me. It's like, you can call me on my cell phone. Like, I've had a client literally standing outside of their house at midnight staring at their house torn up by a tornado calling me. And I answered.
Was it that October tornado?
No, it's the Rowlett tornado.
That Christmas one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary stuff. And she's still a client of mine. We talk regularly.
Wow. That's
It's
awesome.
Yeah.
You're almost selling yourself as a consultant.
Yeah.
Who, when you educate a client about what their options are before you're asking them to ink a deal and write a check, it says something.
Yeah.
When you were starting out, you're bootstrapping, you're just trying to get a product to sell.
Yeah.
And you got Progressive and you got Safeco to say, yeah, go for it. Get out there. Sell some policies. As you've grown, has there been the opportunity to pare that down and only rep one product? And if that opportunity presented itself, why have you stayed independent? Because one thing you and I share in common, and I do a lot of insurance restoration work, I am 100% independent, and you and I share very, very similar approaches. Educate the client first.
Yeah.
What could happen, what will happen, what's going to happen down the line, and how does it all work? How did that work, and what did that opportunity ever present itself to go with just one and rep just one product?
Yeah, I mean, I get phone calls regularly.
Yeah.
And whether it be being a representative from the corporate side on the insurance carrier,
Sure.
or going to what's considered the captive side of the insurance world. The reason why
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, it's called captive, independent, and direct.
Wow.
Those are the three buckets. So independent is me, captive is your State Farm,
Right.
and direct is your Geico.
Yeah.
The reason why I just don't even take the call or take the call and say thanks but no thanks is that I see a tremendous amount of value of educating people and helping them understand, maybe making a tiny little impact in the insurance world, of having people walk away fully understanding their insurance options, and just kind of changing the mentality about insurance just as much as I can with the 6,000 people that I work with.
Wow.
So,
yeah. 6,000 clients that you've got. Wow. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's just so important. I know when I refer people to you, usually they're pissed at their current carrier.
Yeah.
I will normally tell you, hey, I've got, John Smith about to call you, and XYZ carrier just totally torched him and did not do the right thing. We had to get a PA involved just to get a ridiculous denial overturned. It was obvious. There are for sure some of these products that are only sold through captive agents that are doing the shadiest business in this state right now, and actually all over the country. And some of it's gotten way worse since COVID started. It's calculated. There's mandates. I mean, it's not cool. It absolutely torques me off, man. It really pisses me off. So I refer them to you because I'm like, listen, even if you don't buy a policy from this guy, he's going to shoot you straight, and he's going to let you know. What do you do to increase your knowledge base, to educate, re-educate yourself so that you've really got a finger on the pulse at all times, and you know what's changing and who's doing what? And when some of it's probably coming from me that, hey, so-and-so and such and such is ripping people off, and you might hear that from other guys who refer people to you too. But how do you improve your knowledge base on a consistent basis?
So, good question. So internally, like policy forms and these nuances that you're referencing constantly, it's a fluid deal in the insurance world. They're saying, can I tweak this little knob here on the coverage to increase profitability over here? So they're constantly maneuvering these policy contracts regularly. And it's not like daily, it's quarterly, semi-annual, annual. And so whenever they roll out these new policy contracts, I read them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I represent.
That's pretty simple.
I have 17 different carriers that I sell for.
Wow.
And each of them, some have, 3, 4, 5 different policy contracts based off the layering of coverage that's offered. And it's a very simple thing. You just read it and you understand it. So because that policy contract today might be dramatically different than what it was 6 months ago or 6 years ago. And so like from an internal perspective, I just try to stay on point as much as I can. Now those policy contracts are a little bit of a bear to read.
Yeah.
But that's my job. That's
right.
that. I mean, that's in my opinion. If you're an insurance agent and you don't read those, you're not really doing your job well. That's just my opinion of that. Now externally, talking about carriers that I don't represent, I just ask. I just say, hey, what's going on out there? I ask contractors. I ask realtors. I ask people that are coming from that carrier. I'm like, because there's a lot of public data, but there's a lot of like internal stuff that they kind of keep to themselves.
For sure.
And so I just ask the questions, and I try to constantly saturate myself and read forums and read the insurance reviews and Insurance Journal and get on forums on Facebook and things like that. Just constantly try to absorb as much information as I can, not in an effort to try to find a way to outsell. It's more just, again, advise and be like, hey, this is what I've seen going on in the marketplace, so that people can fully appreciate the fact that, like, hey, this guy is a 360 view kind of guy. Mm-hmm. He's not just saying because he has these products, he's going to sell these products and he's going to go hard in the paint. He's maybe sell me something, maybe not.
Right.
Like I always challenge myself. It's kind of a game. It's like my goal is to always write a new account without telling them what the price is.
Sure.
And so I'm like, I can write, quote out somebody, advise them, talk to them for 30 minutes or 2 hours or whatever. And they just fully appreciate and they fully understand like the powerhouse of an effort that I can bring behind them in their insurance solution. And so and that is all encompassing, whether it be the solutions that we have or the solutions that are offered outside the house.
Yeah.
So
if you were a captive agent, would you have that ability to custom make a plan for, say, somebody who came to you, say they're a real estate investor, so they maybe might need some builder's risk on a few things, or they've got some rentals, so they need a couple of maybe ACV policies. They've got a bunch of vehicles. They've got their own nice primary dwelling. Obviously, because you see it if you're watching an NBA basketball game, playoff game tonight, or if you're watching the Mavs win last night,
there
boom,
you go. Luka.
Yeah, damn straight.
Yeah.
It's always bundle your home and auto, blah
Right.
blah blah.
Right.
Or there's one out there with Lady Liberty, and they're always talking about what you can customize your coverage.
Yeah.
So because you're independent, I think I'm answering my own question. That has to give you the ability to be way more creative when it's, hey, let me customize this over here. We can do this, and this product works best for you here. And over here, we're going to use this product for I would recommend because it's going to serve you best here. How's that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're exactly right. So the captives can do it. So what I can do is be more strategic about it.
Yeah.
And so they have their options. They just kind of check the boxes of like, he wants this, this, and this. Well, I can say, well, you want this, this, and this, but how can we get a little bit more, strategic is the word, just more focus on what you're really trying to achieve with your coverage, as opposed to just taking this option off the shelf. And so some people may be like, hey, I've got these 3 rentals there and wherever, and I want some ACV coverage on it. Great. Well, we're going to do that with this carrier, and this is why. And then I've got a nice primary house, $500,000 house or whatever. Well, this option really isn't the option that you should do, that you have on these ACVs. We're going to place that with this carrier, and here's why. And so, but ultimately, people are like, it kind of changes the mentality. They're like, well, it doesn't feel like I'm bundling. I'm like, well, you are, because you have me.
Right.
And like, you're still just calling me, but we're focusing your bottom line. We're identifying what you're trying to achieve and doing it in a very unique way.
So
as opposed
really,
to off the shelf.
If we boiled it all down and put a little bow on top, you make yourself the easy button for your clients.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're doing.
Easy. Yeah. I mean, do it as fast and easy and streamlined as possible,
Right.
and achieve the goals that they're trying to achieve.
But with an eye on it, though, because
Yeah.
how could you ever think that you could go online and put all your info in and it spits out quotes, and that would in any way, shape, or form meet all of your needs down to the last detail. How could you, I mean, if you were a conscientious property and vehicle owner, how could you ever even think that that would be the way to go?
I mean, the carriers do that. They advertise for that. And so it's like I constantly battle the carriers that I sell for.
Yeah.
You know, it's a constant battle, right? And so it's like I literally would be like, hey, everything you heard about Liberty Mutual or Allstate or whomever, let's just go ahead and forget about all that.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you.
Right.
You know, let me help you understand it.
Sure.
And so like people are trained to go online, put in their name, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, great, it's $2,000 for my home insurance.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy that. It's like, well, what'd you get?
Yeah.
My job is to help unpack all that.
Is there a soft metal exclusion? Do you have a metal roof?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Because if you get hit, then you're going to be up shit creek without a paddle.
That's right.
I see it every day.
Yeah.
So what I see every day is I bought a policy. I thought I was covered. Obviously,
Sure.
they got the lowest premiums they could possibly get.
Mm-hmm.
And when they got their loss report back, half of it's non-recoverable depreciation or just whatever the scenario is.
Right.
And they're always mad at their agent.
Absolutely.
And I can't think that there's that many agents purposefully misleading their clients, although there might be. I've never been an insurance agent, but we are in Texas. And for the most part, everyone around here carries a gun and is, for the most part, pretty honest.
You're right.
So, I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't think that I mean, of course, there's going to be agents out there that are going to say what they need to say.
You're not even going to repeat carries a gun?
They do carry a gun. I was talking about that earlier. I was doing stock of how many guns I have. But I think the issue is that whenever agents are selling, they're selling.
Yeah.
And that's where the disconnect happens.
Right.
Because if they've got their one option, if they are a captive, they're going to sell it.
Yeah.
And that's where all the chaos presents itself.
Right.
And so for me, I advise.
Yeah.
And I advise on the options. And I let people know and be like, that exact scenario, you're going to have ACV and you're going to be 50% non-recoverable depreciation. Here's the cost and here's what that looks like for you when that day comes.
Right. Because it will come.
Because it will come.
This is DFW, man.
It happens. How you feel about that? They're like, I don't know. Like, I don't want that. 100% of people are going to say, well, I'll say 99% of people are going to say, no, I don't want that to happen. Well, I'm like, well, here's an option here that mitigates against that.
Right.
It might be $300 more a year or 10%.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the moment that they file that claim, that extra 15% that they spent on that is going to be the best return on investment that they've ever made in their life.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, think about 10 city blocks north of here last October.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think we've seen anything like that in the heart of the city of Dallas ever.
Yeah.
And if you drive through there now, maybe 45% of the work is done.
Yeah.
And we are coming up on 1 year.
Yep. October.
What's going on?
Yeah, I think that,
I know that's a loaded question.
That's a loaded question. But I think that if the 45% that's been completed are the carriers that are aligned with the demographic of those people impacted. So like you get a carrier that's, writing business in the insured value space from $100,000 to $5 million on a home. Well, they're going to write one policy contract for that entire spectrum. That would be a State Farm.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to write most people off the street.
Yep.
Which is fine. Like, I'm not knocking it.
Right.
It just is what it is.
It is what it is.
But you have other carriers that are really focused in on maybe $1 million to $10 million home. That's like more of your Chubb.
Yep.
Or AIG private client.
Yep.
Or Pure.
Yep.
Or Nationwide private client.
Mm-hmm.
Or Cincinnati. Or, these carriers that are there that day, which is we had 4 clients impacted from that tornado, and I was there. My colleagues were there.
You were out there.
I was there.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground. There with an adjuster and with either the contractor that individual wanted to work with or somebody that the carrier would recommend. And we were there.
Yeah.
And those are the people that were getting roofs back on their house. They were getting their house rebuilt in days, not weeks, not months.
Right.
And so what you're seeing there is the clear disparity of the carrier delineation that exists in the marketplace. Because those carriers that are writing the $100,000 houses or the $5 million houses, they're going to treat all those clients the exact same.
Yep.
Well, that client in the $5 million house has dramatically different expectations than that $100,000 house. I'm not knocking the 100,000 because like I've been there.
Yeah.
And it's just different strokes for different folks. And so people in those higher valued areas that were impacted by that storm, they're, really feeling the hurt today, unfortunately. And the unintended consequence of everything associated with us being there, we're calling, like I'm texting clients, like I'm sitting in my, I live in North Dallas. I'm sitting in my utility room with my 2 kids. Yeah. I mean, we've got tornado. It could go straight up, straight to me, or it could, banana over.
I live like 7 minutes from you.
Yeah.
So I was in the same boat.
Yeah, you got it. And like, I've got 2 young kids. I'm freaking out.
No doubt.
But it luckily, well, for us, unluckily for other people, it bananaed over to Richardson and kind of went east. But I'm texting clients while I'm in the utility closet with my kids, kind of freaking out and saying, hey, how are you? Because I know that they're in a general area that was impacted. And I'm calling them at like 7 a.m. I'm talking to the client or their office manager or whomever. And those are the clients that are in the 45%.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we're all that 45% because we're not, but everybody else, the 55%, they're still trying to get the carrier to stroke a check or the second check or get the draw out there. And they're just like, holy smokes, why do I spend whatever amount of money? I thought I was getting this Lexus option, but I'm getting a Toyota option.
Oh, so you're saying that they advertise one thing on the Super Bowl commercial, but then they do something entirely different when the rubber meets the road.
Sometimes.
Many times.
I'm gonna play Switzerland on the deal, but I'll say sometimes, and I'll let you believe.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's nuts just to drive up the tollway and look east because there's still just a massive path of destruction. Yeah, I have no idea what those people are doing, where they're living.
I don't know
what their plan is. Yeah. I know many of those homes are condemned or partially condemned. The county went through and tagged a bunch of stuff. It's a huge mess. It doesn't get much coverage. So, there's that old axiom, you get what you pay for. Yep. And I mean, that's true to a degree, but there's still a lot of people who pay big premiums and still don't have the coverage they expected. Would you say that maybe the more fitting axiom when it comes to your insurance coverage, whether it's on your home or your vehicle or your second home or your rental home or your business building, is you don't know what you don't know about your coverage?
That's exactly
because how many clients are taking that policy contract and flipping that thing through and reading all the print and the fine print and cross-referencing it with maybe the last version to see what's changed?
Yep. I mean, nobody.
Yeah.
1%. Maybe. And, that's an attorney type mentality person. People they just don't know what they don't know. And it's interesting, I'll talk to people that are coming from a carrier that's catered more towards a $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 house and their $5 million house. And I'm actually able to save them money.
Yeah.
And get them a policy contract that's actually going to benefit them.
That's fucking nuts, man.
And, it just makes because the economies of scale on that are dramatically different. If a carrier just says, hey, I'm going to insure in this area $1 to $10 million houses, their exposure is lower because there's very few clients in that demographic, and they're going to orient the coverage, and they're going to collect premium, and they're going to know that those people are going to do a lot of risk mitigation on their own versus that person that's buying their first house that's going to file a bunch of claims. Mm-hmm. You're going to call up Jess and say, hey, I've got a slab leak and it's going to cost $10,000. They're not going to file an insurance claim.
Right.
they're just not going to do it.
Right.
They're just like, I'll just pay for it.
Right.
You know, one, maybe they just pay for it, or two, their deductible is twice as much as that damage because their home is a lot larger. And so the ways that the carriers are able to keep the rates down in that space is that it's just a different clientele. And so whenever you're with a carrier that's insuring a $5 million to a $100,000 house, those rates are disproportionately weighted because of all the claims that are filed in this small segment down here, and you're paying for it up here.
I mean, it makes complete sense. Listen, one size doesn't fit all, ever.
Yep. Ever. I
mean, in anything.
Yeah.
Gloves, sneakers, trucks, insurance. What's right for me is not right for you.
Yeah.
If you tried to wear my sneakers, you'd be bummed out. If I tried to wear yours, I'd be bummed out.
Yeah.
It seems like it makes perfect sense, but again, I think it comes down to what's easy. And obviously, our culture right now, it's fast, easy. We've all got to differing degrees that adult onset ADD where what's in front of me, I want to get it done, get in, get out, move out. It is tedious, laborious, boring to think about your insurance, to take a look at those numbers, but it all comes down to, hey, that you're making a business decision.
Absolutely.
I mean, big time, and I see it every day, and it pisses me off, but it also breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because there are little old ladies with ACV policies who didn't really know. There are also folks for whom English is not their first language, and I have to wonder. I mean, I like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but it's hard.
Yeah.
I have to wonder if they knew exactly what they were getting into. Now, I know they liked that premium because that premium was low, but, I mean, it's tough stuff. Let's talk about how you starting what you started got you to where you are now and what adversity you've encountered along the way and how your mentality, I mean, you're a rugby player, so adversity to a lot of us looks like a plate of bacon.
Yeah.
It really does. We got a little bit of a different mindset around that. But how's your mentality even changed more around adversity and about how you see it, what it represents to you when it presents itself?
Yeah. So, I mean, we experience adversity every day.
Yeah.
It could be personally, professionally, psychologically, physically, whatever. How I've transitioned my mindset is the adversity worth it? Because we're going to experience different layers of adversity every single day. And so if I look at it from a professional sense, I say, okay, well, here's a problem. Is it mission critical for my business to address? Is it not? Is it something that it's even worth to put on the list? And so take it back to day one. I'd take everything on. I put the weight on my shoulders and say, let's just go figure out the world's problems, right? That's just what you do because you're just like, you don't know what you don't know. And you just say, well, it's a problem that's in front of me. I got to figure it out now. And then another problem is going to present itself. So now it's like a little bit more quantitative and pragmatic of understanding, being that we've been in the business for going on 10 years now, rolling 9 years this year, 10 years next year. It's like, you have to understand and pick your battles. You have to be able to delegate. You have to have a team behind you that's going to serve the common cause to address the adversity, because you can't do everything. I sure as hell can't do everything. But, getting the biggest adversity that I have, the biggest challenge that I've had is not, taking all that on myself and passing along and training up and indoctrinating people in our organization well to where I can effectively say, we're a team together. We're all fighting the similar battles. We're all taking the mountain. And let's do it together.
Yeah.
It's like an adversity 7 years ago would be something that I could probably address in 5 minutes now because I learned. But you have to get through it. You have to do it. You have to power through it. And then once you learn it, you can teach it to somebody else and they can do it too, so that you can continue pushing your business forward.
Right.
I don't know. Did that stay on track with you?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, what would 2020 Stephen tell 2011 Stephen that would help 2011 Stephen get to where 2020 Stephen is now 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, I can tell you that 2020 Jess has a lot to say to 2011 Jess, and I would be where I am now. I would have been there 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight is 100% 2020.
Big time.
I would probably challenge myself in 2011 to not say yes as much. Because the yes, like you have to say yes at the beginning.
Yeah,
like,
man.
You know, it's like, yeah, I'll do it.
No doubt.
I'm in. Like, game on, let's do it. Because you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But I would say, you know, plan better. Understand your objectives. Because that helps you say no more quickly. Because we were just, like you said, we're bootstrapping.
Yeah.
We were just throwing stuff on the wall. It's like, okay, that stuck. Let's do that again. You know? Where I think that we could have been further along at this point, call it 2018 or 2016 or whatever, is if there was a little bit more of a methodical plan put forth of like, where do we want to be, and tranche it out.
Yeah.
And like run in sprints, not run a marathon sprinting.
Yeah.
And so you're running the sprints. You're like, okay, I'm at the finish line.
Yep.
Boom. Hit the plan, missed the plan. Why did we miss?
Yeah.
Okay, we did it. We're there. Next sprint. Next sprint. You're doing your ladders, right?
Right.
And now I'm transitioning away from the sprints and back to a marathon with a much bigger objective
Yeah.
and with far fewer things that I want to do.
Right.
But far more impactful.
Sure.
And so, but planning would be the first thing. And with that, being okay with saying no if it doesn't follow the plan.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You seem like a goal setter.
Oh yeah.
What are the increments in which you set your personal goals, and then how do you set your team goals?
Yeah. So if we're talking like in the sales environment, so there's a couple different goals that I set for myself. So in the sales environment, we do it based off of clients. You know, it's like, hey, you sold X amount of clients last month, last quarter, last year. Hey, here is a plan of how you can do that again, but add a certain amount of percentage. So, and then we break it down on a monthly and even weekly or daily cycle with all of our salespeople. And we have that plan not only to challenge them, but also to roll up to the common objective of the organization. So it's like saying, you know, last year we grew by whatever number. This year we want to do that again, plus a little bit extra cherry on the top.
Right.
How are we going to get there? I can't do that by myself. And so we just kind of help people understand, and then help them forecast, also develop them as humans and professionals as much as we can, support them and care for them. Because if the more that you care for people, like I say care a lot in my life, and you give that in an expression of not like, oh, I'm going to give you a hug all the time.
Right.
You know, you give that in the way of like, hey, I'm going to challenge you more than you like to be challenged.
You can do better.
Yeah, you can do better. We're in it together.
Yep.
I'm not sitting, again, going back to, I like to use the metaphor, I'm on the same side of the table here.
Yep.
We're in the trenches. Let's dig that trench as fast as we can.
Yep.
Let's get out of here. And so my job is to challenge them, while at the same time it's challenged me to meet my objectives as an organization now. And so we just kind of look at year over year, month over month, and we just live in sprints on the sales and retention of our clients.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the best leaders pull, they don't push. When you're pulling, you're out front.
Yeah.
Right? So if it's always go do this, go do that, go do this, go do that.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
Right. When they see you putting it in, maybe you're taking a bullet for the team. Maybe even taking responsibility if the team falls short. Hey, you know what, guys? I feel like I could have put you in a better position.
Yeah.
We could have gotten there, but I feel like maybe I fell short. Maybe I didn't know that this objective was going to be met with this type of adversity, and I should have, because I've got more experience than you.
Yep.
We're going to talk about team building in a second, but how much do you use a peer-driven approach to try to build out your team? Have you got like team leaders that are kind of your team captains, where you got to maybe sometimes play that good cop, bad cop, and they're helping you out with that? Or how do you handle that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest thing in
we can cut this out if you don't want any of them to see.
Yeah. So the biggest thing in my world is unencumbered access to information.
Yeah.
Meaning, in the sales world, I want people to know what other people are doing.
Right.
100% of the time, real time.
Yeah.
What are they selling today? What are they selling this month? What did they sell last quarter? Like, and they have access to it, and the other person has access to theirs. So with regards to peer-led.
You mean creating competition?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, creating the competition.
Right.
Of like, hey, there's times where, you know, you just got the thoroughbred on the track that's just going to outpace everybody.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm cool with that as the owner.
Right.
You know, it's like, what do I need to do to put him out the pasture as much as I can to make sure he's happy?
Yeah.
He doesn't get pissed off.
Right.
But from a peer leadership in the sales environment, you know, I think that people are naturally competitive. If you're not a competitive individual, my opinion is you shouldn't be in sales.
No, you need to be working at Home Depot, man.
Yeah,
for sure.
You need to be working in an office, clocking in, clocking out.
Absolutely.
And with regards to kind of a pod mentality, that's kind of what I look at it. Yeah, we do have that, and it looks different. You know, it's not necessarily one person's always a leader. I'll say, you know, there's different facets of the business because our organization is still relatively small.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not like 500 people.
Right.
And so, you know, it's like, hey, so-and-so, I want you to champion this piece of the business.
Sure.
And it could be something that's not a needle mover for you as a customer, but him and the salespeople as professionals.
Yeah.
And I want you to like take that on. And it could be career development, personal development. It could be, hey, if you do this a little bit better, it's going to increase your sales. It could be on social or whatever. And so that's what we do is we just task people that we identify things that work well, whether it be translated into sales or retention or customer care or claims care. It's like, hey, let's dive deep into that one. Hey, you want to lead that?
Yeah.
And then they hold people accountable, and we just have checkpoints on it.
Gotcha.
So,
are you sometimes identifying maybe the guy coming up who could be a leader in the future? Give him a little task, kind of see if he runs with that, see what he does with that, he or she.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, you know, the easiest way in a sales environment to identify that up and comer is their sales, right? Right. But they're horrible managers. Like a good salesperson. I mean, the majority of those people are terrible managers.
It's a true story, man.
I mean, myself included. I'm in that bucket. Like, I'm not an awesome manager.
Right.
I'm working on it, you know, and I've engaged like leadership coaches and like, you know, all that stuff to kind of unearth that fiber in my being. But yes is the answer. We can identify the up and comer, and we need to understand that badass salesperson might not be the right choice for managerial.
Yeah, maybe roles. Let's not ask the thoroughbred to be a Clydesdale.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I mean, know the people. Different. Yeah, 100%.
Know the whole person.
Right.
That's a big deal for me too.
Yeah.
And
so you're out there. You're looking for more yous, right? The guy who would be like, yeah, I'm cool with being on the road for 10 days, staying in motels and driving to Austin 10 times a month. If that means I'm going to close deals and build my book of business.
Yeah.
We were talking before we went live about the flake factor. I mean, finding good people. There's a lot of people out there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hell, there's a lot of unemployed people out there right now.
Absolutely.
Finding good people is an absolute, it's a Herculean effort right now for reasons that are sometimes beyond me. You can even find them with all the right ingredients. Maybe they check all the boxes, but they still don't work out. What's your process for identifying them, recruiting them, and then finally getting them to where you hire them? And then do you have them in a probationary type period for a while? And how do you get the ball rolling and get the wind blown into their sails when you get them started?
So
that's a big question.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. Yeah. So honestly, have we done recruiting? Have we found we found more people that have fizzled out than have been successful. That's natural.
No doubt.
So to say that we're experts at recruiting, I would be lying to you. Typically, how we source them is if we identify somebody that's been with us for a while, that has been a productive employee, that has been accretive and profitable, they typically run with similar people in their lives, right? And typically. Every once in a while, you got the knucklehead in the crew, and, you know, you don't want to hire that one. Right. But so we lean on our people because it's like we're big on culture. We're big on care for our families and space and time. Yeah. And like we're not going to be the organization that is, you know, hey, you're leaving at 5:30. You should have made 3 more phone calls whenever you made 30 today. Like your goal was 33. Like we're not going to micromanage people. So we're going to say, hey, did you do what you needed to do to serve your why today? And a lot of people's whys for me is my family. Sure. And so it's like we want to find the right cultural fit. That's first. That's paramount. And then once we find that, we do some analytic tests. We do some strength finding tests, and we say, hey, how do these people think about the world? Do they think about it from an entitlement perspective? Well, I'm out whenever it comes to that. Like that's an immediate, like, I might call you back.
There's the door.
Yeah. None of that. And unfortunately, in the millennial demographic that I'm in, are you a millennial?
Hell no.
Are you aging
Man,
out?
I got years on you, bro.
Yeah.
You don't see baby? You don't see the gray?
Yeah. I got a little gray, but I think it's because of kids.
I'm killing you on the gray side.
Yeah. You know, it's like in the world that the millennials live in, there's a lot of entitlements. Right. That's another pandemic. Yeah. You know, and
it's a worse pandemic, man.
I mean, it's systemic.
It's complete fucking bullshit. It's crazy too.
So the moment we, you know, if we say, hey, great cultural fit, like you as a human being, like the way that you think about the world, and then we transpose that to a little bit more analytical, and we say, okay, how do you think about business and how you make your income, and what do you expect from your employer, like just in your head, and we do that through a couple different tests that we have them fill out. Assuming
are those tests you developed?
No. Yeah. No, I mean like
personality
tests and strength, you know, just like just personality tests that are out there in the marketplace. Yeah, they are. And then assuming that they check the boxes, it's like, okay, game on, let's try. And so we put them through a relatively quick crash course, usually about a month. You know, train them up about insurance and how to sell and the value that we present and how we operate in the space. And and is there, to answer your question, is there a probationary period? Yeah, there is. And it's correlated to a lot of different metrics, you know, one of which is revenue generation, another of which is, you know, activity load that they put in to generate revenue, because 100% of our business is 100% referral. And so people do not know about C1 Insurance Group unless if somebody told them about it. Period. Like we do no marketing outside of stuff that I put out there. Yeah. And that's my sphere. Right. They probably already know about C1. Yeah. So it's like, what are you doing to grow your business? Right. How are you leveraging the things that we have trained to do that? And what's the activity associated with that? Right. And if they're meeting kind of what are called lead and lag measures. So the lead measures in our world is who are they meeting with? How are they, you know, getting opportunities to pass the word on about C1 and all these lead measures. The correlated lag measure is the revenue. Yeah. And so if they talk to enough people, theoretically revenue should come. Yeah. But if they don't do that in a certain amount of time, there's just an expense that I incur that I just can't sustain. Right. And so it depends. It's usually 6 months. Yeah. You know, it's like, okay, they've got it. Yeah. Or like, there's a question mark. Yeah. You know, right. And sometimes even if there's a question mark, there's still like, you know what? There's still like, we just gotta push them that extra, you know? And so the people that we have, the majority of our people are very tenured people. You know, based off of our timeline of business. I mean, I think the majority of people have been with us for over 5 years. Wow. And awesome. So that's a great thing. Yeah. And that's a terrible thing.
Yeah, you need that fresh blood sometimes.
We need the fresh blood, and we need to grow. We need to find more people, and finding the people that kind of fit the mold for us is kind of unique.
Yeah.
But the people that we have are fantastic.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, like, love the people we work with and know about their families and, know what they enjoy in life. And we share a lot of time together. We spend more time with our work family than our family.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we're big on that, but we need to grow.
Yeah, that team chemistry is super important.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you started, the first few people that you hired them.
Yeah.
You talked to them. You got a feel for them. You checked their references, read their resume, got a feel for what they're... Now, have you delegated a lot of that process? I'm sure you still make the call, but do you have other folks on your team doing a lot of that initial legwork to see if this candidate checks the boxes?
So I still sit in the seat of the first conversation.
Okay. And
now, am I less on the boots on the ground and the pulse of finding that person? Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of outsource that or use, our chief of staff, that's what we call him. And he's like, hey, this guy kind of checks, or this gal kind of checks the boxes. You should have a conversation with him. Oh, that's me. Like, I want to have that first conversation.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be like, I'm fine with having one of my people have a subsequent conversation and a second round of interviews.
Right.
But I want to set the tone.
Gotcha.
And I want to set the tone, and like, I want to look at them in their eyes and understand who they are as much as I can in an hour.
Right.
Because that's super meaningful. It's way more impactful for me than it is to one of our employees.
Right.
Because ultimately I'm holding their livelihoods in my hands and their abilities to pay their bills. Like, I want to know that I trust that person.
Right.
And then assuming that sniff test gets passed, I want them to get to know the team.
Yeah.
I want the team's opinion.
Right.
So if I'm like, hey, I'm 5 stars on that person. If we operate now in the mentality, if one of our employees who interviews on the second round, they say, hey, I'm a 1 star, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm way more invested in our culture than I am in growing the organization in a wrong way.
Yeah.
So
building that culture is super important in terms of that, having that teamwork, that kind of we all win when we all win.
Yep.
Obviously, you're going to have your top sales guy. Do you incentivize your people at all to have their head on a swivel, looking for people, trying to recruit to your team, incentivize them a little bit?
We'll throw some bones at them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I think that's a great way to do it. Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
What about fighting that tall poppy? Oh man, they're doing way better. That's a cultural thing too. Where are we all cheering for each other when we're winning, or if someone's winning too much, is it too much, and that's gonna piss me off type of thing.
Yeah, no, I pretty quickly address that whenever that presents itself. I'm like, hey, like, you need to be celebrating him or her, like, because there's going to be a day that you're going to be that person,
right?
And you're going to hope that person reaches out to you and says, way to go.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to get to that point, you want that person to reach out to you and say, way to go.
Sure.
And you should be reaching out to that person and saying, way to go. You're the best salesperson for the last 6 months.
Right.
Every month you need to be reaching out to that person and saying, way to go. Because one day you may just land a deal or land an account that just catapults you to that position.
Sure.
And it's a natural thing for that person to be like, badass, man, way to go.
Absolutely.
And so like, anytime that there's any of that stuff going on, like, I immediately address that conflict.
Yeah.
And because that's the big thing, is conflict resolution is a huge thing in our world, right?
You bet.
And the best way to address conflict,
de-escalate, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so like, you go direct to the issue and you address it, and you address it in a very, very constructive way. Mm-hmm. And so if you're creating conflict in yourself, you need to ask yourself, why am I thinking about this? You're like, really? Because I want to be the top salesperson.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated that I'm not the top salesperson. Great. What are you going to do to fix that?
Yeah. Love that competitive fire.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to check it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the goal is that the team win.
That's right.
If one guy's the only one winning, the team's dying, company goes out of business.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you earlier, but you answered it. How do you guys find new clients? You said all referral. So what are you doing? You're putting your people in referral groups. You're having them beat the streets. They're making cold calls. They're obviously going back to their social networks, their family networks, all maybe previous employment networks, that type of thing. Or how's that
all
work?
the above.
Okay.
And I've kind of had this battle with these networking groups of like, is there value there? Is there not? And I've kind of changed my tune on them to a degree. Previously I was like, no value, waste of time, a bunch of people.
Like BNI,
Masters,
Gold Key,
it's like all those things. It's like no value. There are some that present a bunch of value. Yeah. And you're not going to generate. And so with those, it's like, it's all about the people that are in them. Because if there's 10 people in the group, and if you sell 100% of those people, well, that's only 10 clients. Right. It's like, it's all about the people that they influence. Yeah. And so I was a little more bearish on those group deals, a little bit more bullish now, but it's all, we orient the pursuit of our clients. So there's two clients in my perspective. There's a client that can influence a lot of people to refer us, and then there's another client that is the person that's referred to us. Right. And so we go to businesses and organizations and industries that have a wide net that they can cast. Sure. They can influence a whole bunch of people, whether it be in the mortgage industry or the real estate industry, or like I said, financial advising industry. And they're working with tens, hundreds, thousands of clients that could be my client. Right. So I serve that referral source, that sphere of influence, that could be an organization or a person. And then I capitalize on that by way of the referrals I receive from that person. Sure. So, but yeah, I mean, it's 100%. Beat the street, call people. Yeah. Spread the word. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat, but the way that we do it has proven to work out. Yeah. More often than not.
There's an awesome salesmanship movie, Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain, called A Most Violent Year. Yeah. It's awesome. Have you ever seen it?
I haven't seen it.
It's great. You should check it out. Especially he walks his guys through. He's the owner. And he's walking them through how to make a sales pitch. He's explaining to them the value of silence in your sales pitch. Oh, yeah. Keep that eye contact. Yeah. Be completely silent. Have them break the silence. All of those things. I say all of that to say, you got somebody, you hired them, they're new, you felt great about them, but man, they're getting up against that 6 months, and they're not selling worth a damn. And they're coming back to you with every excuse in the book. Einstein says experience is knowledge. Everything else is just information. Yeah. You started this business by selling. That's how you started. That's how I started my business too. I was out there selling morning, noon, night. So when someone comes to me and they complain, I just simply start asking them questions. Yeah. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? I've got a formula like you do, and I'm asking my people, are you following the formula? Because there's parts of the formula that are fun, and there's parts of the formula that are not fun. Oh, you have to sweat. You got to drive. You got to get a lot of no's. They're leg day. Yeah. If you don't do leg day, you don't break tackles. If you don't break tackles, you don't score touchdowns or tries. Yeah. If you don't score, you don't win. Right. So how has your experience of striking out, missing out, then making the sale helped you maybe reclaim that prospect before he's going to hit that 6 months and you're going to be like, bro, I mean, you're not.
We're out. Yeah.
What are you doing there to kind of maybe rekindle the fire? Because good leaders, I think they can recognize something in that person that's the same in them. Man, I felt that way once and I didn't quit, and I sold my biggest deal the next day. Yeah. You know, how do you encounter that? How do you address that with your people?
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes it's hard, right? Because you get lost in the whirlwind of the business and the operation of the business. But what's important in that is to understand what those people are doing every single day, how they're thinking about the world, check in on them, like where's their head at? And because if they start to get into this psychological purgatory and they're just like, everything's going to be a no, my life sucks. It's like, no, you need to invest in that person, help them feel like they are going to be successful here. Then, so that's a very finger on the pulse deal. Then it's like you start asking regular questions of the formula that you mentioned. It's not like a, hey, I'm about the burnout. well, are you doing all these things? They're like, well, shit, Jess, you should have told me that 3 months ago. You know, it's like, but you and me, we're like, you should be doing those things. So shame on, you know, it's like, shame on you. You know, it's very easy for us to get in that mentality.
Right.
But on the flip side, it's like the more proactive, challenging that you can give to that person, help them understand what they're doing. Because a lot of people, they're thirsty for the water. They just can't find it.
Yeah.
And you're like, the water's right there.
Right.
You know, there you go.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to tell them where the water is.
Yes.
And then once you get that wind in the sails.
Yes.
And then they're like, oh, there's the water. And that's a sale.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, I don't really suck at this.
Right.
They start to, you know, embody the persona that they want to be, that they're challenging themselves.
Right.
And then at times that feels like micromanagement, because it is.
Right.
I mean, let's just be, nobody likes to be.
You can't manage what you can't measure.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the really hard balance to strike with someone, because I kind of sometimes want to just say sink or swim, man. Like, I've shown you the ropes. And if you can't make it, then I'm going to find someone else who can, because I did.
Yeah.
But my dad told me a long time ago, not everyone's like you. And if everyone was like you, no one would like anyone, because they'd all be like you. So it takes all types, right?
Yeah.
And getting the wind in their sails and getting them over the hump, man, it's like, it's important, man. How badass is it though when they do start to work the formula, make the sales, and they're like, bro, I can't even believe this. I can see that this is going to change my life.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
It's like, there's nothing better. You know, it's like, it's impactful for them. You know, selfishly, you or I, we get a whole bunch of affirmation.
Absolutely.
You know, there's like, you get that euphoric moment of like, okay, this person believes in themselves.
Yes.
You know, and you're like, I helped with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
I mean, I'm not the Lord Jesus Messiah, so if I feel that affirmation, I do pat myself on the back from time to time.
Yeah.
Because I think if more people were less afraid of sales, way more people would be free in their lives. And instead, they're afraid. Afraid of what? You're afraid of no? No means nothing. You know, yesterday was Jack Canfield's birthday. You know who he is? He's out of Fort Worth. He's a pretty well-known author. He's just an overall sales badass. So he's got that. He's got a quote, and it's known amongst a lot of salespeople as SW, 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 SW. So some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. Right? So we follow up. I tell my people all the time to make no easy with a client, right? So a lot of times we'll reach out to a client, hey, did you hire another contractor? And all it takes back is a yes. Fine. And that's very deflating. But just move on to the next one. Right? So value every single transaction as though it's not going to be transactional, as though you're going to win a client for life, like you try to do, like I try to do.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get that no, don't burn the bridge. Because if you're positive there, when they get burned by one of those terrible carriers, they're going to be calling you.
That's right.
When they get burned by one of those terrible contractors, they're going to be calling me to help them out. And then someone's waiting. There is a client who values what you value, who values value, and they're the target. When you guys are going after a client, obviously you'll sell someone a policy if that's all they want. They barely want to talk on the phone. Just sign me up, get it done, I'm over. But your ideal client is
somebody that truly wants to understand what they're protecting, because it's like what they're protecting against and how they can protect it. And so, you know, getting a policy in place is like, that's part of the process. But my ideal client is somebody that wants to understand the true function of insurance and how it can be addressed and educated upon it. And so if they're saying, hey, like, some people don't think about what they do in life and how much exposure there is. And like, they're willing to flesh out their life with me. And it could be, hey, I'm on a HOA board and I'm the president and I make decisions for these 500 homes in this neighborhood.
It's a big responsibility.
Yeah, I'm like, do you understand what D&O coverage is? Right. They're like, I don't know what that is. Yeah. What if you got sued because of that decision? They're like, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
You know, or
because they're volunteering.
They're volunteering. They're just trying to help.
Have no idea that it can come back and bite them. Yeah.
No idea. And like, they're like, well, if $1 million hit you in a judgment, would that be a big deal or not that big of a deal? They're like, that would be a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like people like that are willing to go through the journey, and for me to have a conversation down to the point of like, hey, how much money do you have in your savings account today?
Yeah.
That somebody could come take.
Right.
Is it impactful if somebody took X amount of dollars out of that bank account? They're like, no. And I'm like, okay, that's one route in the conversation. They're like, no, that's like a huge deal to me. And is that part of a trust? And there's other people that are in that trust that it could impact their lives too. It's like, so people that are willing to go through that journey,
sure,
and have that conversation with me and help me, or have me help them understand what insurance truly is and how it could protect them. That is the ideal client, because that is centered around value and expertise.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And
then you've identified your ideal client. Who's your ideal affiliate, associate, employee, whatever you call them, your ideal new team member to C1, and how would joining your team change their liif?
Yeah. So like, I've had people come from the carrier side and the underwriting or claims, or, you know, it's like, and they're dealing with the crap that they're dealing with, you know, all the claims and the processing with contractors. And they're just saying, gosh, I really wish the insurance agent would have just done their job.
Yeah.
You know, or it's somebody that is, you know, coming up in life, they're aging up and they don't really know what insurance is. And so like, the value that we present is that for that claims adjuster type person, which we have a couple on our team, which is awesome, which I really enjoy having somebody with a claims background. It's like, hey, here's how it's done right. And he's like, oh, I fully understand why you do it that way and why that's impactful for me and my business.
Sure.
And then on the flip side, you get the person that's aging up, younger dude, younger gal. And it's like, we empower them and how to think about life, you know, and how to prepare for life. And so, and then they can communicate that to their friends and the people that they work with. And because, so the impact that has, it's like, whether it be on the truly insurance intrinsic side from the claims and the sales side, or impact on their life, it's like, we value that and helping them frame the right frame of mind in the little part of their life called insurance.
Yeah.
And so,
little part. That could be a huge part.
Little part that could be a huge part.
If shit hits the fan.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
A lot of the people who watch this podcast are property investors, real estate investors, etc. How is it that you can bring value to their efforts and operations? And when should they reach out to you in their process? Hey, Stephen, I'm looking at this as a rental. Can you run some numbers on this for me? And can I partner with you for the long term? And can you guide me through how to insure all of my permanent assets and then many of these temporary or investment assets? How is it that you can bring value to their efforts?
Yeah, great question. So there's a lot of different ways. So we've been talking a lot on personal lines insurance.
Yeah.
And so personal lines insurance is like your home, your auto, and your umbrella policy, like just normal Joe and Jane down the street. Talking real estate investors, there's a lot of economies of scale that we can present to a carrier, that we can leverage their assets to minimize expense and maximize coverage. So we look at it in a different way, dramatically different way than a personal lines account. We can say, hey, your total insured value, or TIV, is $5 million because you got 50 rentals or whatever the number. Well, we're going to say, here's $5 million in insured values.
Yep.
And I want to rate on that. I don't want to rate on this one house. I want to rate on this.
Gotcha.
And the economies of scale and the risk associated with that is far less for an insurance carrier So it causes each allocated expense to each of those houses to be lower.
Interesting.
And so we look at it in more of a spreadsheet perspective.
Right.
And we say, okay, well, what type of coverage do you want on these 10 houses versus these 40 in that scenario? And well, the allocation of premium for that is fill in the blank versus that.
Yep.
And so where we've seen success is that we can leverage the client's assets to get the best rate that would be more in the commercial side.
Sure.
And so because those carriers they can bite off. They can kind of bite off, I want 10 million of that. Another carrier can say, I want 20 million of this one, and we can consolidate that into one schedule and portfolio.
Sure.
And it makes it a very, very beautiful thing. Like, I get super excited about that.
Yeah,
stuff,
that's badass. And then you're able to use your expertise to kind of guide them through avoiding pitfalls.
Yep.
Especially maybe when it comes to property liability, things of that nature. If you did have a large portfolio of rentals, maybe not even single family, maybe you got a bunch of duplexes, or you've got some multifamily, or maybe you've got a couple of buildings. You got a daycare in one, you got a brake shop in another one, you got a barber shop in another one.
Yep.
What do I need to know? What could come up and bite me?
Yep.
How can I be covered and make sure I can sleep well at night? And make sure that when the rainy day comes, whatever it is, whether it's a slip and fall or a tornado, I'm covered. Where are you at in there in terms of, hey, bring everything in, let's walk through this. Are you going to handle that with him? Are you going to bring one of your guys in and you're both going to work that through with him? How do you handle that in case somebody who's watching reaches out to you right after this broadcast?
Yeah, so me.
Yeah, awesome.
I mean, that's badass. I mean, I have a team behind me.
Right.
But I see value if somebody's saying, hey, Stephen, I was referred to you by so-and-so, like, if I just immediately, imagine the client. Hey, I was referred to you, Jess, and you immediately were like, here's so-and-so.
Yeah.
It's like, that might be okay for some people.
Yeah.
It might not.
I did send my brother out last time you asked me for something.
No big deal.
He's better looking.
He's way better looking. He's way more fun to be around.
This is like the third fucking week in a row someone said that. Ryan can attest.
It's
bullshit.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Andy.
He's taller.
Yeah.
He's a little bit skinnier.
He is very lean. Yeah. I have better teeth, but that's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
No, I see value in me handling that.
Awesome.
And having a team behind me in the shadows.
Yeah.
And
right on.
And leveraging the team, because there's going to be things that I may not know how to do well.
Yeah.
Just to be quite frank, it might be a unique situation, but this person over here is like, oh, I dealt with that last week.
Sure.
That's what you get with us.
Yeah, man.
And so
that team dynamic's badass. All right. So if someone needs to wants to reach out to you, what's your info? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah. I mean, email, phone, email's obviously quick. You can call me on my cell phone. You can text me. You can text my work line. I can give that info.
Yeah, hit the email. I won't put your text message out on the big bad internet.
Yeah, email is just sfranke@c1ig.com. That's sfranke@c1ig.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Man, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Hopefully it's helpful.
Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Hey, that was great. Hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, Stephen's so full of energy, got a ton of information. We talked for almost an hour and a half. The importance of team building, the importance of culture in a company, and also the importance of integrity with regard to selling a product like insurance is so important. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to work together live at autographconstruction.com. I'd also love to know what you think about the podcast, so please drop a comment below. Reach out anytime also on Instagram, Jess at the Northwest, and we'll see you next time.